Awesome. So tonight we are here to celebrate entrepreneurship, and we have a local entrepreneur that you are going to hear from a little bit later, Mr. Caudill. But we are SOAR, that's shaping out. Are we good? Sorry. You good? Okay. We are SOAR, that is shaping our Appalachian region. We are the business and innovation team. My name is Dana Barnett, and I'm the startup program coordinator for this program. Our main purpose and goal is to promote an entrepreneurial mindset. And so we're grateful for you all to be here today. We want to make sure that you know and understand that entrepreneurship is happening right here in the mountains and that you can have a global impact from right where you are. So no matter what your interest, what your discipline, we want to make sure that you know that you can be successful and that you have the opportunity to meet other successful people. So I'm going to first bring up our program manager, Ms. Barbara Gay, to talk a little bit more about SOAR Innovation.
Hello, everybody. It is so wonderful to see all your beautiful faces here tonight. So I'm Barbara Gay. I serve as program manager for SOAR Innovation. I'd like to tell you just a little bit about what we do. So shaping our Appalachian region is dedicated to reversing the population decline and fostering economic prosperity across our 54 counties that we serve in this region. SOAR Innovation serves as the Eastern Kentucky hub for innovation, and we are under the Cabinet for Economic Development, focusing on 29 counties and supporting tech-enabled, scalable startups. I manage the innovation team, and we are focused, as Dana said, on developing a technology-driven entrepreneurial ecosystem in Appalachia. We're supported by the Appalachian Regional Commission with a power grant. Our mission is to support businesses from that first concept through funding. Our programming includes opportunities like pitch competitions, inspirational speaker series, ideation workshops, startup sprints, and coaching. All of these are concentrated around our core pillars of inspiration, ideation, incubation, acceleration, and fundraising. We're actively engaged with campuses across the region, including Morehead State University, Ashland Community and Technical College, Hazard Community and Technical College, Union Commonwealth University, the University of Pikeville, and Paintsville Independent School. Our team includes myself, Startup Program Coordinator Dana Barnett, Outreach Coordinator Devaney Redwine, Director of Business and Innovation Sabrina McWhorter, who unfortunately could not be with us tonight, Energy Innovation Coordinator Casey Hicks, and Startup Support Specialist Brittany Smith. And now I'm going to let Jason Sloan, President and CEO of Morehead Rowan County Chamber of Commerce, come up and take this mic. And he's going to tell you a little more about our inspirational speaker.
All right, well, thank you all for inviting me here tonight. I'd like to introduce our speaker, Mr. Caudill, a native of Morehead, Kentucky, has 32 years of experience in manufacturing. His emphasis is in engineering and product development with a diverse background in machining, tool, and die fabrication, as well as welding. 4C Innovations was started in 2012 as a part-time business, with the company developing and getting a patent on the pontoon boat loader guide. In 2017, Caudill decided to take that business to the next level and went on his own and engaged full-time with the company. As of today, he is still manufacturing pontoon boat loader guides, but is also designing and assembling farm implements that are sold nationwide and does machining work for several large Fortune 500 companies. He also has other products that he has designed and sells nationwide to consumers. Please put your hands together and welcome Mr. Kyle Caudill, 4C Innovations.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank SOAR for this invite to be able to come out and, share my story. It's going to be an interesting 20 or 30 minutes here because I'm usually the guy that comes up with ideas and does the designs, manufacture them, take them from A to Z. So I'm not, the guy that gets out in front of people, but I like to do this when I can to give back to the community and also maybe inspire somebody that wish they had somebody out there they could look up to or get advice to. So basically, the journey started for me when I was really young. My mom and dad I grew up on a small farm. Basically, we just did farming to be able to survive. You definitely didn't want to do it for a living. I learned that really quick. It's very hard work. It's 12, 14-hour day kind of work. So it's got me really thinking about what I wanted to do in my life, and I knew that farming wasn't part of my life, like to make a business out of it. My dad was always finding things to do on the farm. Didn't matter if it was, tending to the animals or tinkering in the garage. He always had something for me to do when I was little. So back then, Saturday morning cartoons was very special. It seemed like I caught myself at the stockyard every Saturday. So the work was instilled in me at a young age. So that's kind of what grew my roots to be able to do what I do, understanding how hard it is to get things done. I'm a graduate of Brown County Senior High School and also the MCTC in machine technology. That's kind of where I got my education from, and also I took some night classes and things in Lexington for business, went to several seminars. That's kind of what you did back in the 90s. It seemed like you just go to seminars to get knowledge, and I tried to soak up every bit of that. I was very fortunate when I was going to high school that I was able to take machine technology as a student. So when I was a sophomore, I was able to take 2 hours of class in machine technology. I have no idea how I decided to get into machine technology. The only thing I knew was I loved math, geometry and algebra, and I think that's what kind of led me to deciding to go that route. And then when I was a junior, I was able to take 3 hours of class. And then my senior year, I was actually able to take 4 or 5. I can't really remember, but I do remember that was pretty cool because I didn't have to be in a desk studying a book. I could hands-on, and that's what really inspired me with machine technology was all the skill set that you learn is a lot of hands-on, and it's a high-skilled skill set that you develop by doing that. After graduating, after I did that, I moved on into Lexington at Bluegrass Manufacturing, and I was really fortunate that I went to a company that probably had about 125, 150 people, had a large assembly line with the machine technology and machining and welding and fabrication. And the owner of the company, for some reason, took me under his wings. Don Bundy was his name. He gave me a lot of business advice, and some of it you didn't realize what he was really talking about, but we always called it Bundyism. He always had some kind of good advice, and it took you a while to absorb it. And I think that's why he did it, because he wanted you to have it in your head for a very long time. So he taught me a lot about business, and he also told me how to be compassionate to employees. My dad was a retired union carpenter out of Ashland Oil, and he always wanted me to have a union book and wanted me to pick some kind of field. And I'm like, well, I don't want to do carpentry. So I said, I'll do millwright. So while I was still working as a machinist, I went to Ashland vocational school on Saturdays, and that's how I became in the field of welding and fabrication. It was long. I had a 4-year program doing 8 hours on a Saturday. So to get my full book, I had to be able to work the hours. And so I went to the owner of the company at Bluegrass, Don, and I said, I have to actually go work the job. I have to actually get and do the millwright side of things. He said, okay, I'll let you, go ahead and go. That's fine. You need to do that. That'll be a good experience for you. So he was gracious. We parted ways. I went and worked. It was very hard work, but I learned a lot. I pulled a lot of hours at the Toyota plant down in Georgetown, installing robots and doing conveyor systems. learned a lot about fabrication. So after I did the hours, I was like, well, this is not really a career for me. I mean, this is good work, pays good, but it's dangerous, it's hard, and I like to get back to my grassroots of doing machining. So I went back to Bluegrass, and the owner immediately put me on second shift. And I'm like, gosh, she's going to punish me. So I worked the second shift for about 6 to 8 months, thinking I'm in trouble. This is my punishment. So after 6 months or so went by, he grabbed me one day before I went to my shift, and he said, I need to talk to you in my office. And I'm like, great, now what's next? He said, well, you're coming back to first shift, and the reason I put you on second shift was because I wanted you to understand how lifestyle is on second shift. You need to understand people and the routines that they have to go through to be able to work a second shift for you. And I said, well, I could have read up on that. You didn't have to put me through 6 months of that. But that's when he made me business unit manager, and that's BUM, as abbreviated. And I always wanted to be a bum in life, so that's what I started with. So I actually ran the machine shop, tool and die shop, for about 60, we had as many as 70 sometimes employees. And at that time, I was 21 years old, being a manager for guys that was 2/3 my age, older than me. And they had a lot of experience. And back in that time, no one wanted to share their knowledge of the machinery and pass it on to the next guy. It was kind of like their safety net. So there was no lot of cross training. I was very fortunate to understand how all the machinery works, how welding works, and I was able to convince the older guys that I need your help to train other people, because you're not going to be here every day. You're going to be sick, or you got vacation, and then what am I going to do? Just let it sit? So that's how I learned at a young age to cross-train. If you have knowledge, pass it on, because it makes it easier for the people who are trying to actually get all the work done. You have to have cross-training. So I picked up on that pretty quick at a young age, to how to instruct people what you need done versus telling them what you need done. Asking goes a lot longer than telling. Just having that compassion. So I learned a lot of lessons at Bluegrass Manufacturing in Lexington. He, like I said, he taught me how to train people and get to the core elements that I needed to get at. So I guess my story with that is you have to surround yourself with support, and he was very supportive. Either it's going to be a family member or friends or a group of friends or many in your family, but you have to find a good support group to be able to go out and be of interest in some of these programs that I've tried to develop. If I didn't have a core group, I probably would have not accomplished what I have accomplished. After Bluegrass Manufacturing, I was there about 11 or 12 years. You have to kind of excuse my math time I get to 32 years. But I had a good friend here locally in Round County that I was doing some work for. Actually, they were doing work for me when I was in Lexington. And he asked me, he said, I'd like for you to come and run my plant. I want you to be my plant manager. And at the time, they had 5 employees, roughly. And I was coming from a plant that had 80. So I was like, I don't know, are you sure? I got a lot riding on me, switching jobs here. He said, yeah, absolutely, I've got you. And it was a good friend of mine, good buddy of mine, and his name was William Pyers, and he taught me a lot. And I'm glad that I made that move. It was nervous. It was nerve-wracking, but I'm glad I made that move, because he was very supportive. He taught me a lot. He taught me a lot about caring about other people, asking how they're doing, how was their weekend, how was their night. Get to know people, get to know your employees, because you do ask a lot of your employees, really. I know it sometimes gets crossed, back and forth with, is the employee actually, putting out what you need them to put out. But, if they're there every day and they're showing up, they're there to do work for you. So he taught me a lot about respect. And he also taught me a lot about more of the high-end tool and die stuff, which is very tight tolerance and just nerve-wracking in itself to be able to make that kind of product. So I worked for them for, I don't know, roughly another 11 to 12 years. And meanwhile, while I was still working for them, my dad came up with an idea saying, I wish I could load our boat a little faster without having to get off the pontoon. And I said, well, that's a pretty good idea. So during the 2010-12 era, we kept working on our design. And meanwhile, I'm still working at a company that I grew it up to about 60 people. So my day was already crammed full of trying to just keep that running. And then in the background, I was trying to help my dad get a patent for the pontoon loader. So we finally accomplished that. It took a couple of years to get the patent because there's a way you have to go at, getting a patent. So we got the patent on it, and he was always telling me, believe in yourself and believe in your talent and take that leap. And it took me a while to get to that because, you're worried about paying bills, you're worried about insurance, you're worried about, can I really do that on my own? So there's a lot of things that will hold people back. But I always tell, if you've got the talent and you know you can outwork people, you just go for it. If you've got an agenda and you've got a pretty good business model and you stick to it, you should take that leap. I was asked earlier in an interview with the paper here at MSU, what do I regret? What could I do different? And what I would do different was, you have to understand the time that you have, the window of time. I wish I would have done it sooner. If I had to go back, it would have just been able to do it sooner. Because I was always good about making other people a lot of money. I just didn't realize that I could do it so efficient on my own. I had to believe in myself a little bit. So I finally, in 2017, decided to get on my own. And so I went full board, working on my own in 2017. Put a lot of hours. I think you have to do that with the industry that I'm in because it's so fast-paced that you have to, and it takes so long to get product developed that you have to go all in and work as hard as you can. So then, like I said, 2017, I moved out on my own, and the next chapter came up on was just being able to say, well, what other product can I do other than making parts for another company that they would send me just a print, we would quote it, and make a part. Because selling to the public is very hard because you have to be able to take it through A through Z, and it's very difficult. Everybody can think of an idea that might make money, but is it realistic? Can you make that product actually work and stick throughout the whole country? And that was probably the hardest thing, because back when I was at Morehead Machining with my buddy William, he said, we can do all this stuff with these machines, but we can't make something to sell to the public. And me and him would constantly, bash our heads, we can do something. And that's kind of what this stuff is representing that's up here on the tables. It's stuff that I've made for companies that they send me their idea, and I make it to their design. And then I've got a lot of products up here that I've completely designed myself, and we sell it to the public. And that was the hardest thing to do as a business owner, because you have to take on a lot of costs. You have to be careful with your capital and your cash flow. But if you believe in yourself and what you're trying to do and accomplish, it can be done. Especially if you're better in a situation, it can definitely be done. And then I was doing pretty good in a small building when I first started the company. Just me, 2 or 3 other guys that had working for me. Didn't really have a care in the world as far as what we were doing. We were all comfortable just making these little pieces. And then I had a good friend, got a phone call from a company, A1 Implements. And my good friend Tony Pence took the call, and they were after, do you know anybody that can do and design and engineer a product that we have an idea on? Can can you get that to market? And of course, Tony said, I know a feller. And that was me. And that's kind of the way my career has been in the Fortune 500 companies that do automotive supply. Is there's at least one or two individuals in that plant that rely on me because they know my capabilities, they know my talent, they know my drive. And that's how I stay in contact with a lot of automotive companies in engineering, maintenance, and quality, and the safety, is because they know I have a compassion and that I will stick to it, because I realize that their job is on the line if I don't perform. So this A1 Implements company, they had an idea with what they call a hydraulic weeder, which is what's in this poster here. It's a weeder that goes in between the plants, and it lets you use less chemicals. It's more friendly in the environment. So I designed that. We took it all over the United States at different farms and got feedback, kept trying to design and develop to where we got a good, stable product. It took a lot of time. It took a lot of investment, a lot of hours, a lot of weekends, a lot of things that you miss out on. But if you believe in it, then it's worth it, And that's what keeps me young, I think, is being able to have that creative mind. It's a new challenge. Every day there's something new about it. So that's what I enjoy about it, is just being able to be creative every day, coming up with something different. So in the A1 side, I've been able to rebrand the A1 into A1 Implements and Distributing. And what I've tried to do with that is being able to have our outreach through the social media, through our websites, being able to take product that's not only in the implement side with weeding, where it takes the weeds out of the plant, but we're also putting it on the planting side, which is like the John Deere, the Case planters, the Kinsey planters. There's things that's on that individual planter that wears out. How can we make that stuff better? Because we listen to the farmers, we take their feedback, and we change the product or come up with a new product. And that's one of them skill sets that you try to develop, is being able to listen to people. When they have an idea, it's okay for them to have credit for that idea. You just have to be the guy that pulls all that together. Because the people that come up with the idea, needs guidance also. And you work as a team together versus, trying to be individual. So we're working every day on rebranding the A1 into the distributing side, outreaching. We're selling in every state with our pontoon loaders, and we're selling in every state with the farm equipment. We're actually taking stuff up into Canada, and I have shipped to Alaska and Hawaii. So we're in every state in the United States. And I also got teamed up to go along with that. There's a company out of Australia that I make a lot of product for. He was able to change some of the key components on some of the planters that work really good in Australia, and they perform really well over here in the United States. So again, that was just because somebody knew my capabilities and found and reached out to me, and be able to pull that off. So after the presentation, take a look at some of the tooling that we've got and the things that we're doing. To recap on the business and being a business owner, the one thing is, no matter what you do, have a large portfolio. Try to be as diversified as you can. Don't rely on just one item. Kind of outreach. Try to recreate your mindset to not settle for one thing, because you never know when that is not going to be around. You've heard the saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket. That is very, very true, because I've experienced that in the other two companies, being a little bit heavy to one customer. Down the road, it creates a lot of financial issues. If you're going to become a business owner and you want to get into supplying things to automotive or supplying things to the public. You need to be diversified in what you're doing too. Try to take in as much education as you can in different areas that might not mean a lot now, but it will someday. And accounting, procurement, even if you don't know how to do every bit of it, you know how to ensure that it gets done. Because at the end of the day, you might be distracted by other things, but you have to have a good team, and you have to make sure that they're doing the right steps. It's your responsibility. At the end of the day, the buck stops with you, and you just, there's been days that I've just wanted to find a corner and crawl up and cry, because it does get hard. You have disappointments as much as you have rewards. You just have to be able to find, my biggest advice to you guys, be able to find your fight, understand what you're fighting for. And definitely find your patience is another thing I like to tell everybody, is you have to be patient, and you have to find that in you to be patient. And my biggest thing is, if you feel down, kind of turn to yourself and and just look at what you can do and what you've pulled off. Shipping product out of Morehead, Kentucky into other states, and people take advantage of that and they utilize what we're doing. It's a good feeling that you're shipping product out of a small town and it's going across the country. It's more so easier now than when we started back in the 90s. The technology that we have now, you can accomplish a lot, and you really don't have to have the big stuff, because you've got the technology in front of you. And we didn't have that back then. And I'm old enough now to say, back when I was young, that's the way we did it. We had fax. I had a beeper. If I wanted to look something up, I had to grab a book. Now you guys have got, it's just right in front of you. It might be entertainment, but the more you take that information that you have in front of you and utilize it as a tool and research through that tool, as much as you research a cute video or anything on social media, if you're in a field, you've got so much technology that you could research and try to get the upper hand on other businesses, because the technologies are right in front of you. And for what we do, I can do it from anywhere in the United States. It don't have to be a big city. It don't have to be a big building. It's just understand your capabilities and how far you want to push yourself. Because I know it takes a lot out of you by pushing like that, but that's the only way it gets it done, is by pushing yourself as much as you can. I've used a lot of students out of the MSU, out of their engineering department. We do a lot of automotive turnkey projects. Give you kind of an example. I've had customers, when they send me a product like this, they'll send me the model and they'll send me sample parts, and they'll say, we want to do X, Y with that part for our assembly workers. So you have to be able to design that. You have to be able to make prints. You have to do presentations. You have to do Teams meetings now, That's a big thing for me. You can share data now at just a click. And it's very crucial that you have that technology and you have students or you have employees that understand how that process works. Be able to take, something like this and provide it in a safe environment to an assembly line at a automotive plant. And they have to make 10 million of these a year, and the machine has to hold up to that. So we do a lot of control engineering, a lot of programming on automotive side. You got to be able to understand this, but you have to get experience, and that's what I've been able to do for students, is give them experience of what it looks like other than just in a classroom, what it feels like, what it smells like. I tell my guys all the time, I can tell by the sound of things that things are working okay, because I've been doing it so long in a machine shop setting. And in fabrication, you can just tell by the way the sounds are if everything is going well. Just go over some of this stuff. Also helped a guy that's alumni of MSU. I'm thinking he graduated 83, 84, but it's Pat Petrillo. It's a drum pad. It's a rudiment exercise for drumming. Been making this product for him since 2015, and we ship these all over the United States and all over the world. But he came up with the design, but he needed somebody to be able to take it from A to Z. Hint, that's where I come involved with this stuff. So that gets sold on Amazon and things like that. But the biggest thing I had to do for him is like get him to understand his capabilities of outreach. So we had to find distributors and take it to the next level with being able to distribute it through the United States and worldwide. The Australian company, we make these tires or the rims, and we assemble the tire and everything. These go on to corn planters, bean planters, soybean planters. That's kind of an example of the row unit, and most of that product that's coated in the gold cut looking is stuff that I've manufactured in-house and currently doing designs of newer product. This is a product that goes on a John Deere planter. This is fully developed just about 3 blocks from here. You're looking at 10, 20, 30,000 units a year of kind of stuff that we make on this end of the table from right here in Morehead, Kentucky. And we bring in supplies from in-state, we bring in supplies from out of state, and you just have to be able to have that outreach and be able to understand the procurement of that, and that's just basically how to find the best deal with materials and paint supplies and understand that industry. It doesn't come easy, it comes through research. It does come a lot easier now when I can just take this and find it. It's a very valuable tool. It can be very distracting, but it's a very powerful tool, and I've been trying to teach people now's the time to start understanding that. Is how is that going to better my education that I'm getting in a facility like MSU? They get you started, but it's also what's after, what's next. And you have to stay on top because it's constantly changing. It's changing faster now than it did 10 years ago. The technology is moving so fast, so you got to get out in front of it. And give you an example, we want to develop a product that went on the row unit, but we didn't want to actually spend the money for casting the raw material. So what I did was I designed it, and then I 3D printed it, which is a very light plastic substance, so we didn't have to spend all that money on tooling to just see if it works. Because you can spend $10,000, $20,000 on the tool just to get this reproduced in a casting form. So once it worked out as a 3D print, then we move it into actual production. And this is a cast iron. It's heavy, it's bulky, but it's made like that for a reason, to be able to last. So it's just different examples of product that we make. These are what we put on the John Deere units. And in the past 2 years, we've made about 45,000 units. So it gets into big numbers really, really quick. So you have to have a good team and let them have a voice, if I could say that again. My first project I ever made in vocational school was a little plastic thing. And it doesn't mean much. I mean, it's got $5 in it. I rolled it up in it. And the reason I did that, I said, well, at least I know I made something worth something. And then I've kept it all these years, 30-some years later. I've still got this, sits on my desk. It's just a reminder that it's like giving me confidence that I can at least make something that's worth something. So that's why this is up here. It's just a little confidence reminder. You know, I've had a lot of challenges in my career, but I've had a lot of good people behind me, a lot of good support group. So, you know, it's very, very important. Any questions? And to answer your question, that you might answer. I've got 11 people that work for me down, we're in a white building off of Bridge Street, and 11 very good workers for me. I've had as many as 20 working for me as on my own company. The smaller group is easier to manage, but I know what it takes to get to higher numbers, and it just takes a lot of work to keep a staff, in front of you with high numbers like that. Every one of them I train from A to Z. Even though they didn't go to school, they have to go to school with me, because if I have a knowledge, I want to be able to pass that on, because the more I pass on, the less I have to do, furthermore. And the other thing, a lot of MSU students and a lot of MCTC students out of welding or the machine technology and out of the robotics program out there, I might not be able to offer you the $85,000 to $125,000 salary coming right out of school. So it's a good fit for me to be able to at least get students basically get their feet wet to where you can move yourself into that, because everything that you do in this kind of field, you have to have experience. And you'll get more experience working in a smaller shops than you would at a bigger one, because there's somebody always out in front of you. At a small shop, you can share that knowledge. So it's worked really good for me to work close with both MSU and MCTC.
Got a question for
Yep.
Kyle. So you've diversified here in the last several years
Yep.
in the agricultural world.
Mm-hmm.
So what have you learned about that industry, and what things are impacting farmers today, farm owners?
Yeah.
You've been able to bridge
Yeah.
the gaps of their challenges.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I did bridge into farming from a high precision machining. We deal with tolerances that are thinner than a sheet of paper. You can't even see it. We moved over into the farming sector, and it's farming, and that's kind of circling back to the day that as I grew up, I did it just because we had to. Now I'm doing farming because it's a passion, and it's helping farmers, because farming has changed so much. Things are very difficult for farmers. We deal with farmers that's got 20,000 acres. We deal with farmers that's got 500 acres. And the story's basically all the same. Cost is, especially after the pandemic, there's a lot of things that's changed our world, and their cost now is more than ever. They're getting hit from every direction, from their seed, from their fertilizer, from everything, and their labor. So to answer your question, is that farmer can't really afford to go out and buy the new piece of equipment. They'd rather try to rebuild with product that we can offer them and provide them a better solution, because their costs are way high, and they're not making yield, or they might have lost their crop. So it makes us feel good that we just saved the farmer, a couple $100,000 to go buy something new. They can just, re-up their machinery and get it into the next season. So that's one thing I've learned is farming. It is passionate for the farmers, and they're usually a third or fourth generation farmer, and they're going to be here because they fight through it. They're very resilient. And so it makes us feel good that we're able to give them solutions without having to go buy new. That's the same thing with the pontoon boat loader. That's a passion, because we give them the pontoon loader, and they're able to load their boats, enjoy their outing on the lake a lot easier, because they know they're not coming to the boat ramp and fighting each other and swearing they're never going back. If anybody's ever loaded a boat, you have a great time on the water, but you start coming out, you lose a lot of friends or marriages really quick. And that's some of their testimony too across the United States. Farmers and all my customers in the boating industry, all the people in the United States, they're compassionate people that like to share stories. And that's one thing I've enjoyed being in this role, is everybody has a story. It just takes you to listen. Yep, in the back, you got you first. Yep. compassion automatically, this is the business part coming out in me, compassion automatically ends up in productivity. You're more likely going to do something for somebody if you're compassionate with them, which will in return give you higher profitability. And also too, not everybody likes to go work for somebody that's a know-it-all or won't listen. That sounds like me back when I started. But you also understand that at the end of the day, you have to take ownership of that. So you do have to listen, you do have to have compassion, but it's kind of a catch-22. When they go home, they're done. And if the product's not developed or if the product has a deadline, you have to jump in. So you're going to lose a lot of compassion if you're having to finish other people's jobs. But you have to recognize, why didn't they finish the job? Did they have the right tools, or they have the right resource? So, oh, you got another one? The people that I've had, yes, the people I've had that's been surrounding me, that has helped me without even knowing it. Now that I look back, there's people in your life that's going to prop you up without you even knowing it. And what I try to tell the youth is, try to have an open mind that there is adults, older people that want you to do your best. You might feel like that you're being held down, but when you get older, you want to try to prop people up and help them. I think the girls, yeah, go ahead.
I'm just curious, you were talking about the two industries that
Yep.
you're in.
Yep.
Do you have any others that you've sort of looked at branching into, as your company sort of grown or people?
Yeah, that's part of the business model that I try to always look out. And that's one of the things that I try to suggest is, understand what you're doing a week from now, a month from now, 6 months from now, 5 years from now. So in that business model that I try to work on a daily basis, and that's where the social media, learning how to build websites, is being able to branch out to be able to take on other things than what I'm doing. That's part of being diversified, is, what else can I take this kind of philosophy over on? There's other opportunities out there that I would like to do, yes, absolutely. Yeah, go ahead. Yes.
When do you know when to stop showing compassion? That's just like taking advantage of
You,
anybody. When do you just cut them off and show them even more compassion?
right, so when you're younger, that's really easy. You cut them off immediately, right? But you will recognize that, because you start, like I said earlier, being diversified and understanding from A to Z with accounting, with safety, with procurement. You'll notice that you're putting everything in as compassion, but are you really getting that return? You'll notice it, because your books won't, your books is going to feel it, And also too, if people are taking advantage of you, that's when you pull them aside and be able to have a one-on-one talk with them. And, if you, as I like to say on a lot of things I do, come to Jesus moment. I'm going to pull you aside and we'll say, what are you trying to do? I've been, giving you love. I've been giving you training, and I feel like that you're just not intaking. It's okay to be honest, because if you don't come out and be honest, you'll never get any more out of that person. But you will recognize it if you're around it enough. You'll realize that I'm pouring in everything, but I'm not getting anything back. But you also too, with that, there's a lot of things that happen in your life outside of work that you take to work with you, and it it distracts you. It could be a good thing or it could be a bad thing, and recognizing that is key. So
So you said you started in 2017, right? That you had started full on by yourself?
yes.
So then 2 years later, when the pandemic did happen, what were the challenges, and how were you able to overcome them?
Yeah, good question. That was very challenging. Like I said, in 2017, when I went full time, you know, I'm working, I don't even know how many hours you can work in a week, but I believe that I work that many hours a week in, week out. But when the pandemic came, we were traveling around the country quite a bit, introducing new product and getting out there. So that immediately changed, of course. When the pandemic hit, you're like, well, can't travel anymore. We could hit the road by truck, but it was a lot of things in the way that kept you really performing. So I was very fortunate that I can do stuff behind a computer with designs that I didn't have to really go anywhere. And so through the pandemic, I was able to rely on staying focused on designs and reaching out to people, you know, that I could, because a lot of automotive plants, they shut down. They would give me projects, and it might be a 6 to 8 month project, and they were forced to not show up. You know, so luckily I had the skill set that I knew where the customer was wanting all of it. So when they did return, I would have their design done or their work done. So it was very challenging being able to get them to kind of meet, you know. I hope I answered your question. Yeah, absolutely.
So, you said that you guys do like, can you talk about resume and stuff? Is there a company that puts your contingent?
Yes, absolutely. We work with MSU that they get, you know, they have to do some kind of external activity, and especially with engineering and stuff, I can give them real world experience, and I'm pretty sure the last one I did got some credit hours from it. I'm not 100% sure, but I've worked with MSU and also MCTC in that same matter. Because, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, because like I'm in CIS, so like with data and everything.
Uh-huh.
So do you think your company would like use that in general?
And you're in what now?
I'm like computer like a data analyst.
Oh, okay.
So
I got you. It's something that's not a department that I have. That's a good question. I'm glad you're asking that. I do know some places that might have an opening into that, that you could probably get into if you want to take my number, and I might be able to help you out. Because not only do I do stuff for myself and other companies, I have friends at work in places that are always looking for somebody. If it's youth that's eager, we're looking, we're trying, because we need that. We need a lot of people that want to be inspired and eager to work. You guys have shown one thing, you've showed up tonight. That's very important because you've got the energy to commit, and that's hard to find now, is that energy to commit. And that's why I like getting students, because they're going to school for a reason, and they're getting up every day to go to school for a reason. That's a pretty highly qualified person to me. Yes?
you were talking about one earlier how you had that sort of like continually pushing like where you were going, and it was very difficult.
Yep.
And how like work sort of like followed you outside of work sometimes.
Yep.
Any recommendations on like how to handle that and how to not burn out?
Yes, you can get burnt out really quick. It's a lot. For what I do, I spend a lot of hours behind the computer designing, because a lot of this stuff, it's kind of like, it's a $50,000 job, but I've got 300 hours in it to actually get it to, get to that end. So you can catch yourself getting really, really absorbed into that. It is hard to get a disconnect because you're trying to meet deadlines. You're into the design so much. If you get away from it, you're like, well, I forget where I was at with that idea. So you do capture yourself, involved in a lot of hours. And the best thing I can say is make sure that you have the compassion to be fully committed, because it will happen if you get into some of these projects like we do. But I've been more and more lately letting myself have more time broke away from my day-to-day job. It's hard to just say 8 hours, I'm done, but there is times that you have to find that. have a good support group, family and friends realizing that you're busy, but we need to go rescue him and take him out of state or out of the county, or it's very important to have that. If you don't, reach out to somebody that that you can at least talk to.
Talked about how obviously these are all specialized skills in the market right now, coming out of the pandemic. What do you think, what are some of the trends you're seeing and what's needed? CAD design, fabrication, what are you seeing that maybe in this area or even what you look for?
Yeah.
What are some things that these folks to, maybe they can focus on and say, hey, we're needing these.
Yeah. The one thing I touched on earlier is just technology, understanding what's coming as far as, we all been hearing about the AI stuff, but there's other avenues with technology that's occurring at a rapid pace, and it's information. Just being able to see what's going on right now, I think there's opportunity for different design changes on stuff that's been around for 50, 60 years. All of this is going to be changing hands, and you just have to be able to put yourself in a position to be able to help it change. Either by finding a job that you love and you're in there changing every day something that's in a factory and you enjoy that and it's your passion. It's all going to be changing. It changes every day with information and with technology. As far as our field goes, I think the biggest thing I've noticed is trying to really get a lot of stuff made local. States and counties recognizing that, hey, it might be a better idea to invest in local more. We hear it all the time, but coming out of the pandemic, we've seen a lot of instances that there's a lot of shortages. It's because we're not making local. We're not making in-state. So that's one thing that I see that will be changing in the future is being able to do what I do anywhere in your local small county and definitely somewhere in the state. Yeah, go ahead. Well, everybody in here is hitting on really good points. I'm a note taker. I'm a sticky guy. I have probably 50 sticky notes all over my desk in a folder. You have to put prioritize what you can actually get done in a day, and you have to recognize that. I can write a to-do list that would probably fill this room. But realistically, can I get that done? But at least you're trying to organize. You might be the best guy ever or best gal ever of remembering things, but reality is how good can you organize yourself to actually get stuff done? My big saying is, what is my battle today and how am I going to win it? And so I write 4 or 5 things down that I know I can get done. And I battle through to get it done. And so you can get overwhelmed very quickly with a lot of tasks. But just try to put them in order of what you can actually accomplish. Mainly try to accomplish the things that make things safer for your employees and your environment. But at the end of the day, you want to make sure you're making money. Good question. Yes, go ahead.
So I remember you referring to compassion a lot.
Yep.
It's a good quality to have if you're in a management position. But seeing as you've held multiple leadership positions throughout your career, what other qualities make a good leader?
Start with compassion. No, no. Being able to listen, being able to admit that you're wrong, that someone else can take the glory. Because if you let someone else take the glory, you're going to learn from that. Because they're probably going to open your eyes to things that you're not seeing by thinking it's going to be my way. But if you let other people be involved, you're more than likely going to be more of a team. And by being a team like that, you're going to be more profitable because now you've got them to take ownership. Let other people have ownership, and then what you're good at, you can go over here and do what you're good at. So it's very important to recognize that it's okay to be wrong and let other people have the credit. It's a big key. Somebody's got something.
You mentioned earlier that you wish you would have started sooner.
Yes.
What type of obstacles did you overcome to being able to start, and what advice would you give to a young entrepreneur?
Just recognize that I could, not understanding probably business like I needed to as far as the A to Z things. And what I mean by that is in business, you have Uncle Sam and the state to, really dictate things that who went to school for that, I've got a lot of people that constantly say, well, what can I do for you? If it's an elected official or, what can I be doing for you? Well, that's great, but when I mention, like, you guys and your tax codes and, what's the best way I can take advantage of, a situation for accounting practices? Just that, understanding that has been, difficult, and because I didn't know that, I knew how to manage it, but when you become an owner, there's responsibility that you're 100%. And that was probably some of the fears, like, can I really do everything that's required of me? So I just didn't have the courage to take that leap. But through my family, my wife's been a big supporter. Just give me that encouragement that you can do it. We believe in you. And so that's probably what tilted the scales, as just family and friends being able to be supportive, have a support group of some sort. Yep. I'm sorry I missed you there.
So as far as like making connections with other people in the industry and stuff, like, do you have any recommendations for, like, say someone like going into a meeting, or like, what do you do before you meet someone if you're trying to have them a customer?
When I'm meeting customers, I got to understand their expectations of me and of my company. Sometimes you get yourself committed to things that you can't charge for. And so understanding that you need to still pay bills. So when you meet with customers, you have to kind of limit yourself how much you're wanting to expose your time to, because in the automotive world, if it is customer driven, in other words, if the big 3 or 4 is paying for it, it seems like there's no limitations on budgets. But if it's something that they have to pay for, they're going to pretty much depend on you to take up some of the costs somehow, either with your time or your design, but they don't want to pay for it. So you have to recognize that is crucial, that you're charging for all your time, because your time is worth something. And not recognizing that it can be devastating after you travel and meet with so many different customers. I had these two over here first. I'll come back to you. Go ahead. Yeah, and I'll get you next.
Okay, so I kind of have like a controversial question,
Okay.
but I'm kind of curious.
Yep.
So in your opinion, do you think that you have like an advantage of like your race or your gender, like being successful?
Good question. I don't think so. I don't know if I really have a advantage over anybody. I've never really thought of that. Because when I worked in Lexington, I had a diverse employee base, being a bigger city and stuff. And I just, being an entrepreneur and having my own business, I've just really never put myself into that situation as far as, do I have the advantage over anyone else? All I know is I've got the talent, I've got the skill, and I know I can work at least 100 hours a week. Can you? as I get older, I know I can at least work 60 hours a week. Can you? So I don't really, that's a touchy subject in certain areas, but for me, I've had so many good people work for me, and that I've just never considered that. I've never asked for help as far as like, should I be getting more help? A lot of times people recognize that I go over and beyond, and they will help me the next go around. They'll say, let's do a little bit more for him, because I know, like on a certain bid on projects, maybe I was a little bit too low and I put a lot of work into it. Because I communicate from A to Z with them, they understand that I probably put a little bit more time and effort in it than I actually, I should have charged for. So I've never really felt like that I've had the upper hand on anything. So next, where's you going? Oh, I thought, okay. You're back here. Yep.
There's a lot of risk involved in being a business owner.
Yep.
Do you think it's an innate quality to kind of overcome the fear of that risk, or is there some secret sauce?
There is a huge fear factor. Can I do it? There's that 5-year period in a company that first year you're like, well, I'm still here. Second year you basically say the same thing. I'm still here. But it is a huge fear factor. Are you able to accomplish your long-term goal? Which, my long-term goal is hopefully I'm not having to work this hard my whole life, but at least I'm doing stuff that I enjoy as far as designs and reaching out to the public. But to be able to overcome that fear is it's a very hard thing to do, because everybody, what am I going to do if you don't have work? Because I also have 11 families that I'm responsible for, and it could go to 20 or whatever, but at the end of the day, as an owner, you know that you're responsible for their well-being as far as a paycheck. So then you catch yourself like, we're slow, so I'm going to bid less. Can I just make it, even, on a few jobs, just so they have the reassurance that everything's okay. When it's slow, it's tougher, and you think about these things before you actually become an owner. If you're not, you need to realize that you're responsible for other people. It's not about just you and your family. You're responsible for other people's family too. That's a big thing that you need to be thinking about when you do jump into it, because it is a scary factor. So, again, yeah.
As far as human capital management goes, helping align with your employees and things, what side do you think you were before you really started considering that in your journey as a business owner?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch like the first part of that.
As far as like the human capital management aspect,
Okay.
like when did you start factoring that into your job as a business owner?
Probably about the third employee. Whenever I had to really say, hey, I got to pay payroll tax. All that fun stuff. It's like, it becomes really real fast, What do you mean I got to pay payroll tax every week? You were letting me do it for 6 months and then pay payroll tax. So probably after the first maybe 2 or 3 employees, I realized that, I'm responsible for them also. So. Anybody on this side? Any questions on the product or anything? So one thing I will add, all of this is being designed through a program called SolidWorks, which it's an engineering tool that you can create stuff in 3D. It's a class, it's a course that you can take here at MSU. That's where the hours come into. Is working yourself through that program as far as understanding the tricks and making sure you got the right computer size and things like that. Go ahead.
So you've learned a lot of lesson structure, like when actually college classes. What has been the most beneficial college class you've taken in like furthering your entrepreneurial journey?
Probably business, and then because a lot of the other was more, on the job kind of training. But the one that probably, if you don't understand your capital investment, you don't understand your profitability, you don't know how much to charge, that stuff is really, really important. And I think that would be like the number one is that kind of course. If you're going to get into an environment where you're responsible with a lot of product, is understanding your cash flow. Good question. Yep. All right. Fire away. SolidWorks. It's called SolidWorks. Yeah, absolutely. After this is over, you guys, you got any questions about things, I can, definitely go with the financial thing. With like SolidWorks, these programs are very, very expensive, and I mean they're extremely expensive. But the one thing I learned, you have to have, like my equipment that I have there, it's very expensive. You have to have good tools to make product. It's okay to invest in things to make good product, and you can't shy away from that. We've got a couple other programs that we communicate through SolidWorks that actually generates the code that goes into the machines. So what we do is, this is made basically by robotics, and you're teaching and programming robotics. A lot of the code that goes into this is 10 to 20,000 line items. You just can't type that. So you have to rely on that technology. So, you got a question? Mm-hmm. Yeah, AutoCAD, we use AutoCAD for our control side, electrical control, schematics, and Fusion is just another program just like SolidWorks. I would highly recommend, if you're into them two kind of programs, that SolidWorks is more diversified throughout the field. It's got better communication elements. In the automotive side, you can share files in 3D. You can generate what we call a tree. You can put assemblies together. So if you're already into that, AutoCAD, and you would pick up SolidWorks pretty quick. And it's a very, very powerful tool. It's just, I'll give you an example. It's like this mic. You bring me this mic, I can lay it out and produce a 3D model of it that you can spin on a computer. And then we can take it to our machines and actually reproduce this, mic by using the SolidWorks. So. Anybody?
All right. Well, thank you, Kyle.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we have a couple of quick announcements. So first, thank you all for being here. We really appreciate it. Thank you, Kyle, for delivering a great message for our students that are in the room and our community members as well. So thank all of you for coming to our event. So we're really excited about some upcoming events that are happening at MSU the rest of the semester. So if you have a business idea that you want to talk through, work through, we have an ideation workshop coming up on September 11th. And that will begin at 2 p.m. So that is going to be kind of a 3-hour little workshop where you can kind of come up with solutions to any problem that you identify. So the Center on Rural Innovation, or CORI as we call them, will be here to do that with us. So we're really, really excited about that event. It's going to be very interactive, up and moving around, talking to each other. So that will be in the Combs building. There's actually a flyer out on the registration table if you're interested in joining us for that. For our community members in the room, that is also open to the community. So we would love to have you all there as well. Or if you are interested in being a mentor to any of our beginning entrepreneurs, we'd be happy to have you there as well. And then additionally, September the 30th and October the 1st, we have a startup sprint. So this is going to be kind of 2 8-hour days of really intensive building out that idea. So if you have a business idea or you've already started a business, we'll spend 2 full days with you, really fleshing out that plan and just giving you the opportunity to really work through all of the problems that come there. So we would love to have you all with us for those. We will have the information on the startup sprint out in just a couple weeks. Wanted to get through this and get to the ideation workshop before we started promoting that one. So we would love if you all could join us. Additionally, I want to say thank you to the Dean of the College of Business, Dr. Jonathan Nelson, and the department chair. And the department chair, Dr. Janet Ratliff. So we really appreciate their leadership and support of this SOAR program that we have. And thanks to all of the SOAR team that is here. We really appreciate everyone's support. And I will turn it back over to Dana for some final few thoughts. Thank you all for being with us.
So you all have just attended the very first ever SOAR Innovation Inspirational Speaker Series. We thank you so much for being here. How many people in this room have owned a business at one point in time or currently own a business? I see several hands. That is awesome. If you all need any support, we would love to talk with you. So please reach out to SOAR. And then how many of you all have an idea for a business that you would like to work through? So all of you all should attend the program that she just mentioned, the ideation workshop. And how many of you all think you may have an interest in maybe taking a business class at some point to add to your discipline? Awesome. How many of you all are business majors? Okay, a few. How many of you all are students? Awesome. So we love this room. We love that you all chose to be here today and that you all are thinking about your futures. So that is the conclusion of our programming, but we encourage that you stay around, network. There are like-minded individuals in this room. There are business owners in this room. There are community members and leaders that impact our daily lives. So mingle, meet, have any refreshments, and we really, really would love for you to take a selfie on our selfie station in the back. I know some of you already have, and we love that. And if you could kindly scan this QR code and give us your feedback. Like I said, this is our very first Inspirational Speaker Series. We do have another one tomorrow at ACTC. So if you all want to come down to Grayson, we would love to have you. We'll have a different speaker, also named Kyle Robinson, the owner of Print My Threads. So we love our Kyles. Once again, thank you so much, Kyle. Caudill, for being here with us and answering all of our questions. And thank you all for your questions. It's been a fun evening of learning. But please just give us your feedback and let us know what you think. And stick around, mingle, and have a great evening.